My name is Jennifer Garam. I am a BRCA1 positive ovarian cancer survivor and advocate. And I am also a journalist, and I specialize in writing about topics related to cancer.
Can you tell me a little bit about your perspective on the main challenges we face, I guess, generally in relation to improving the experience of people with or at risk of ovarian cancer?
I think there is a lot of opportunity here for improvements. And I think there is a passionate, engaged community that is ready to do this work that needs to be done. And so I think awareness and education is huge. Um, I don't think a lot is known in the general population about ovarian cancer, and it is not on people's radar. And I am a journalist, and I worked in the health space before being diagnosed with cancer, and I knew nothing about ovarian cancer. And I was covering women's health. So I think that says something about what the general population might be aware of. It's not just making people aware of it, but making people care, because you can see it and you can just let that message go right by and think it doesn't affect me. The hereditary cancer risk and genetic testing, I think so much needs to be done in this area. I am high risk. I am BRCA1 positive. I had no idea. There is no known history of cancer in my family. It's not just families where all the women have breast cancer or all the women have ovarian cancer. It's anyone. Like, I'm Ashkenazi Jewish, like that's a risk factor, but other communities are as well. In my instance, and I think this isn't talked a lot about, we discovered through genetic testing after I was diagnosed that my father was BRCA1 positive, because the chances of him, he has higher risk than normal for certain cancers, but it's not like women's risk. So all the people that have been genetically tested in my family, the only people that have been positive aside from myself are men. So I always say that the BRCA was hiding in the men in my family. None of them had cancer. So I think that people need to understand and be motivated to get the genetic testing done, because I also know people who have family members at risk and they do not want to get genetic testing, and they want to put their head in the sand, and they don't understand that if you have a genetic mutation, it's going to do its thing. It's going to develop cancer, whether you know about it or not, and that the knowledge is actually power. It's as scary as all those actions you'll have to take are. Being completely blindsided with a late stage cancer like ovarian cancer is worse, is scarier. So I think just that message. And then the other people that are at risk that I think more awareness and education needs to be around is young women. Young women can get ovarian cancer. I was 43 and I'm a lot older than a lot of my friends with ovarian cancer who were diagnosed in their 20s and 30s.
What do you think we as a coalition could do to help drive efforts to tackle the disease and improve survival and make people's experiences more positive?
I think that a key thing is that a lot of the ovarian cancer community is speaking into an echo chamber, and they are sharing really important information and really important knowledge, but they're speaking to people who already know it. And I think it is really important to be intentional and think how, as a community, we can come together and reach outside of that echo chamber. And I think what does it is survivors and patients who are diagnosed, because I will tell you, all of my Facebook friends know what ovarian cancer is now. I would love to see the awareness at ovarian cancer at the level of breast cancer. I would love to see in the Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month, you go into shops and at the checkout, they ask you, do you want to add $1 to donate to ovarian cancer, for the dollars and also for the awareness. What's really important is elevating the patient and survivor experience in all efforts. I think patients and survivors always need to be involved in any initiative, because again, like I see programs meant for ovarian cancer survivors that were thought of like kind of top down and didn't come from the survivor and perspective and the survivor needs. And then also the patient perspective is not uniform. It is not one thing. I have a very different perspective from a lot of other people. And so I think just bringing diversity into all your initiatives is like the patient should be represented. The patient's perspective should be driving the initiatives, but there should be a diverse representation of patients, whether that is from people from disadvantaged communities, LGBTQ, um, people of color. Like you really need to think about diversifying. And I think underserved communities and financially disadvantaged people from financially disadvantaged populations need to be represented, because what I see on Instagram, and I think Instagram probably self-selects for certain populations, but it's a different experience of cancer than one would go through if one was unable to pay their utility bills. Another thing that I think is really important is educating the people who are going to be diagnosing the women with ovarian cancer, so the PCPs and the GYNs. And I think educating them to talk about this disease and talk about risk and suss it out. Like, even if you don't have relatives who have died of cancer, like, can you see that there's other risk factors and maybe they should get genetic testing? And another thing on that front that came from the rare ovarian cancers panel that I moderated at your partner meeting last fall was the power of partnerships with patients and providers and researchers. So patients and doctors, patients and researchers. I think that World Ovarian Cancer can maybe bring those groups together and facilitate some of those connections and partnerships, because I think that patients have so much to say and so much to share and want to share it. So I think these partnerships need to be nurtured more.